Hi, Spyros.
Hey, hello. Good to see you.
It's good to see you
Sorry I
too.
couldn't make it, but
To the
this.
opening, that's okay. We're all in outer space anyway. It doesn't matter. So I wanted to, Andreas unfortunately cannot make it because I inadvertently forgot to tell him about our time. So I'm going to be standing in for
Okay.
myself and Andreas Keller, the gallerist. And this interview is on occasion of your participation in the exhibition that I curated for Olfactory Art Keller called 10 Encounters. So we have 4 questions we're asking everybody. And the first one is, who are you? And tell us a little bit about your practice.
Well, do you want the long version or the short version?
Well, total. I know you like to talk, so maybe the middle version.
Hello, everyone. My name is Spyros Drosopoulos. I'm an independent perfumer based in the Netherlands. And yeah, that's the short version.
It's pretty short. What about Baruti? Tell us about Baruti.
So my own brand is called Baruti, and then I'm also in-house perfumer for Deluxe fragrances, and also involved in Centronics, so algorithmic perfumery. So these are my three main big projects. And most people probably know me from Baruti, as this is also the work that is being sold under my own name in the world. This is a totally different offering, a totally different story, but like the cherries on the cake, these kind of projects.
Oh, so you do occasionally do art projects. So we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
But before we go there, I wanted to ask you if you could tell people about the story that you chose to, or I can't remember if I suggested it or if you said the story you ended up interpreting. What is the story, and what are the sort of broad strokes of that narrative?
So the encounter that I took on my shoulders to interpret in the perfume is the encounter between Theseus and the Minotaur. Theseus has to basically thrown to the Minotaur, but he decides that he's going to defeat him. The Minotaur is a beast, partly human, partly bull, that devours people for pleasure, I guess, and also because it has to eat. It's caught in the labyrinth under the palace of Knossos. Theseus, first off, he enters the labyrinth with a bit of a, what do you call it? Like a
little bit of string.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that he's able to find his way out, because that's like the biggest obstacle. Even if someone would make it in there and actually manage to kill the beast, they would not be able to get out because they would get lost.
Right.
And so he also defeats the beast and then returns on his ship to Athens.
Okay. So how did you? I mean, so interpreting that in scent, there's a bunch of approaches one could have taken. So what approach did you take, and why did you take it that way?
I think, it's all in interpretation and all completely subjective. But I think the concept of the labyrinth is something that is very fascinating. To me, I have a scientific background, so I tend to be quite logic about things. Logic and art, I don't know if that's it's a bit good combination, but I tried it.
Why not?
And I think for me the labyrinth itself is a very fascinating construction.
Concept, yeah.
Because I literally, if I think about it, it puzzles me. So how did this work? Like, if they had this thing, how would you? Because there was, of course, no electricity, there was no sanitary thing. So it must have been, you have this beast in the middle, if it's the middle, and probably complete darkness. Probably so like the whole. Yeah, like I don't think. I can imagine that it must not have been pretty to enter in the first place.
And then the bodies of previous people and stuff, right? Like, I mean,
yeah. So you would
have
have their decaying corpses. darkness. It's by the sea, so it's also got some sort of humidity.
Mm.
So that I wonder if you would actually be able to smell anything else. I mean, Theseus is probably a very masculine man, strong. So I can imagine a sort of scent that he would emit in these days. But I'm pretty sure that no matter how strong, no matter how little he showered back in the days, the labyrinth must have been overpowering, must have been
the space
really,
itself, you mean?
the space itself. And then you have, of course, you have a beast, which, also I think probably is not supposed to smell pretty. It's not supposed to smell like roses or galaxolite. So I made this kind of the scent of the labyrinth, the closed space with probably not super good ventilation, with the animal living there in one space, eating, living, in complete darkness. And then also the two people, so the two encounters. So it turned out to be a scent that it was never supposed to smell pretty, and I tried my ultimate best not to make it smell pretty.
And you succeeded, because it doesn't smell pretty.
No.
I think in your statement you say, I'd say enjoy, but I don't think you will. But I have to say, it was actually a really engaging and interesting smell. I mean, people stayed with it a lot at the opening. So I'm curious.
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead. No, go.
No. I mean, I think it's also kind of fascinating, to smell this thing. Like I also have a love-hate relation, and of course, because it's an abstract interpretation, it's easier to conceive. I think if you would actually go somewhere and it would smell this way, you would just run.
Yeah, you wouldn't be hanging out. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, you wouldn't be smelling like, do I smell
interesting.
a bit of Ritz Mercaptan, or is it like this sulfur molecule? Is it like rotten eggs, or is it more like?
Yeah, that's a good point. So I'm curious, actually, relating a little bit to what you were talking about earlier about your practice. So when you're working for Baruti or for Deleuze or for algorithmic perfumery centronics, there's one approach. But when you're doing work for an olfactory art exhibition, how does your approach to making the smell differ?
Well, I guess there isn't anything that is freer work than doing an art project, especially one where you're given just a narrative, a theoretic narrative, which is completely fantasy based. With whether you're working, when you're doing fine fragrance, of course, you have not only the scent itself, but you have the way it performs on skin, how the scents, the different ingredients transition. So you need to make sure that when you have your how the perfume opens up, and then when the first molecules have evaporated, what comes after, that all these transitions are smooth, because you want a continuous harmony, and you don't want your perfume, let's say that you're doing something with rose and patchouli, the moment that comes a point where the rose dissipates and then the patchouli comes up, that you have it's like when a DJ is mixing. You don't want to hear any gaps. It should be one smooth mix, and that's fine fragrance. So it's not only about the notes that you put in there, but also how you mix them and how you make sure that everything smells smooth, and that it has to stay a certain time on the skin, and it has to basically, fine fragrance is intended to make you smell nice. It's meant to attract. Then you have room sense, which is ambient sense, where you can a little bit have in terms of performance, at least there is less demands, I guess, in a certain way. And when it comes to an art project, there it doesn't have to smell nice anymore, because it's not about being pretty or about making sure that you feel nice in a certain environment and you stick around, or you do certain things. This is really an experience, so it can be a nasty one as well. So and I think there's no way that I could make a scent like the one that I did for the exhibition, that I would be able to market and sell it in a commercial way.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
Pretending
I mean,
that it's something that would make anybody more attractive or a room more appealing or anything. No, it's like, come on.
yeah.
So yeah, so it feels like free work. It feels
Yeah.
like ultimate liberty, freedom to really push the creative envelope as far as it can go.
Yeah. And so for those who haven't had a chance to smell it, I'm sorry for you because it's something. But would you describe the smell in a couple of words, Spyros, just to give people a sort of olfactory imagining of what you chose to do? I mean,
yeah. So you have this sultry outdoors ozonic sea breeze note, but but not in a fresh, nice sea breeze.
Yeah, more of
Mixed
a
with
stale,
so it's like the seaweed already kind of fishy, decaying scent, which mixes with earthy notes because you have the humidity. At least I assume that it was humid in the labyrinth. So this is still kind of like outdoors nature. It could be also used in the perfume setting and smell good, but then you have that which clashes with the animalic part, which is a combination of leather materials, indolic materials, and also really sulfur materials. So there's a couple of
there's a distinct sulfurous aspect to it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which gives you the decay, basically, the decomposition.
Also, a feeling of unease and slight danger, which I think is interesting because you conveyed a feeling in addition to sort of a technicality,
Exactly. Yeah. No. The feeling is this isn't pretty.
Get out.
So you have, but for me it was interesting to really convey this clash, and then you have also Theseus, whom I've tried to interpret in a bit of a sexy, uber masculine way. So there is also this part in there, but this mixes again with a dirty animalic part of the the living space of the Minotaur. So probably this is what gets people a little bit hooked, that you smell it, you go like, oh, and then you want to come back again and smell it again, because there's also this slight addictive erotic part, I would say, of the protagonist.
Yeah. And even the part that is, I mean, when I first smelled, I mean, you had sent me a variation early, and if you recall, I took it out of the packaging and I sprayed it on my wrist without thinking.
Before I was able to warn you.
Oh my God. But so that's that. But this one actually differed quite a bit. It got different. People were really interested in it, So yeah, nicely done.
That's cool. That's nice. Good to hear.
Yeah. Well, cool, Spyros. I think that's all we really need for this little interview. And I want to thank you for participating.
Well, thanks for having me on the interview, and let's do this again.
I look forward to that.